The Canucks' dire goalie situation takes a turn for the worse as the pressing need and race to extend Kevin Lankinen gets even tougher. And a recent NHL documentary ousts Elias Pettersson as a small captured moment is leading to massive speculation. We're going to be breaking down all of that in this episode of Canucks Digest. But first, if you're enjoying this Canucks content and you want to stay up to date, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can join the nearly 30% of viewers that are already subscribed. And with that, let's hop into the first topic of the day, which is Kevin Lankinen rejects offer. So in a tweet from Rick Dhaliwal earlier today, he says, it sounds like the Canucks made a contract offer to UFA goalie Kevin Lankinen a while back, and it was rejected. And then on his show, he went into very descriptive detail, and we're going to hop into a few of those quotes right here, saying the first of which, the Canucks were very aggressive in the first week of January, trying to re-sign Lankinen. They made what sources say a very solid offer, term and money. Some say the offer was over $33 million a year, and it was rejected. At that time, agent Todd Diamond wanted to see what the salary cap would be this summer. He's got that number. Now talks have been pretty quiet. So right off the bat here, knowing the Canucks were aggressive in the first week of January bodes well for fans, at least, because they have been saying for the past, since the new year started really, fans have been saying re-sign Lankinen, make sure that he is locked down and that you have him for a little bit longer, especially with the Thatcher Demko situation. However, now that we know they went to him with an offer at $3 million a year and it was rejected, now it seems like that number will probably go up exponentially because of the Thatcher Demko update that we had the other day, where he is now week to week, and it seems like injuries is something that Thatcher Demko will never be able to shake for the rest of his career, it seems, because he constantly has this injury bug. However, having that rejection offer there is very sour for Canucks fans and just for the Canucks in general, because they wanted to not have that stress of another looming contract heading into the offseason. They want to make sure that any contracts that they have that are expiring coming up, they want to make sure they can lock them down before it becomes a problem in the offseason, and they have other things to worry about and other contracts to dish out, and to make sure they can go out and get free agents. They want to make sure that all that money is accounted for before any of that happens, before it goes into free agency, because if that's the case, Kevin Lankinen becomes one of those cards lost in the fold where you have a chance to go and get him before any other team has a chance to scoop him up. So you want to lock him down as soon as possible. Obviously, that makes sense for anyone in any sport, really, to want to lock down their guy for as long as they can, when they can, and before other teams have that chance. However, with the way the market is and the way that Lankinen is seemingly wanting for his money, and with the way the Canucks goalie situation currently is, the way the market is and how Dhaliwal went into it, there's a lot of bigger contracts out there where these goalies aren't necessarily as good as Kevin Lankinen, but they're getting paid a lot more than him. And where does Kevin Lankinen belong in that group? Dhaliwal says, I'm saying that there's been some goalies signed this year that have changed the goalie market. Outside of Blackwood, all have similar games played experience. Here's the key, Thatcher Demko. 4 injuries in a single year, which is astronomical. For just on an unrelated note, the Canucks cannot go cheap with the backup goalie position next year, Donnie. They got to spend money. They're clearly going to have to go outside of their comfort zone to sign Kevin Lankinen. Now, considering all the contracts that we have coming up, obviously this is one that you need to make a priority heading into free agency, because yes, Brock Boeser, that's one that I've been saying personally is one of the ones on the high priority list. However, with Thatcher Demko there, and with Kevin Lankinen having seemingly stolen that goalie spot from him, I know it's still Thatcher Demko's job whenever he's healthy. However, even when Thatcher Demko is healthy, there's been times where Kevin Lankinen's been clicking a lot more than Demko has, and has really been proving as to why, for any other team, he would be a starting goaltender instead of a backup. The Canucks, they don't necessarily have him in a backup role. I know on the depth chart he's the backup. I know as far as playing time, he technically is the backup. But look at how he's played in these games. He's been outplaying Thatcher Demko, like I said, and he is helping the Canucks get into games and win games, and he's having a career season at that as well. And he is in the top 3 in goaltenders for shutouts this season as well, only behind Connor Hellebuck and one other person. And so it's very, very tough for the Canucks as well, because they don't want to have to spend too much money. But with the way the situation is now, even in the last video, there was comments saying Thatcher Demko should retire because of all the injuries he's had, which would be understandable. Unfortunate early retirement for him. However, I can understand if he does go that route. But if that's the case, you go out and you lock down Kevin Lankinen as your franchise goaltender for the next few years, if that's the case, because he has proven that he can be a starting goaltender. He's not just our backup goaltender. He's our goalie 1B. We don't have that goalie 1 and 2 like we did last season with Demko and DeSmith, where when we put DeSmith in there, we were expected to lose more often than we were expected to win. With Lankinen, that chance definitely goes a bit more even, and it's more of a 50-50 rather than a 60-40 or even a 70-30 at some points when DeSmith was in there against a really good team. With Lankinen, he definitely gives us a better chance to win as a backup goaltender. And I feel bad saying a backup goaltender because it feels like a slight on what he's able to do and what he's brought to this team. He's been so reliable between the pipes and has been that piece that the Canucks have needed without Thatcher Demko. And it seems like he knows it. The Canucks seem to know it, and now they're going to have to put their money where their mouth is in showing him that they know that by bringing him a bigger offer than $3 million a year, especially when looking at the other people on the market. And then one of the last things that Dhaliwal did go on as well is that it's going to be hard to sign Lankinen. However, them going after him at January 1st when they were able to sign him does go to show that they do really like Lankinen. He's played well with his teammates. Rick Tocchet loves him. The goalie coach, Marko Terenius, is his goalie coach in Finland. So everything fits. Everything fits in Vancouver for Lankinen, but it looks like right now there is a gap in the money. If you guys want to pause it and take a look at the full quote in its entirety, as well as the other ones, you can pause it, take a read, and then you can chime in as well in the comments, as well as your take on all of this. However, it's very concerning that this is all coming out at a time where we're saying on this show even, sign Kevin Lankinen tomorrow. Make sure that you can lock him down. Even on the last episode, when we were talking about the Thatcher Demko injury update, I was saying, if this is going to be something that's week to week, make sure you can go get Lankinen now to save you the headaches of later and before he just starts playing really, really good and gets that price bumped up even higher and it makes it harder for the Canucks to do. That's the main thing here I think the Canucks wanted, and by going after him January 1st. Not only to save them the headache long term as far as around free agency time when the season ends, but also to make sure that, hey, we want to lock you down before you go and play even better than you're playing right now. Because despite only getting paid $875,000, the undrafted netminder, has enjoyed his best season as a professional in Vancouver, holding a 19-8-7 record with 2.53 goals against average and a .905 save percentage, adding 4 shutouts, which, like I said, is a top 3 in the NHL right now for shutouts. So yeah, with this, there's a lot of upside with Lankinen as to why you need to re-sign him, but there is also a lot of things as to why his price tag should be higher than $3 million a year, or higher than a lot of his contemporaries that are making way more than he is. However, with that as well, he's going to start playing his ass off to the point where the Canucks can't deny paying him even more than that, potentially even up to $6 million or $7 million a year if he continues to play the way he's playing, where, hey, if he continues this way, he could project himself not to be a Vezina candidate by any stretch of the imagination maybe, but he could definitely be a top 6 goaltender in this league if he continues to play like this. I know that could be hyperbole. Maybe he's top 10. However, it just goes to show the strength and the upside that Kevin Lankinen goes to show. So if you don't lock him down now and he goes and does that, that price is just going to keep going up and up and up and up. Yes, there is the danger where you could go into the Elias Pettersson route where you pay him all that mid-season and then he does not live up to that contract at the end of that season and into the next season. So yes, there is some trepidation there where the Canucks might have that very same worry because of the Elias Pettersson situation. But in the long run, I think you lock down Lankinen as soon as you can before he bumps up that price tag by continuing to play even better than he already is. But what do you guys have to say about all this? What do you think down in the comments on Lankinen rejecting $3 million? What would you offer Lankinen to make sure that he stays in Vancouver, and as well as how many years you would be willing to offer him on that term? Let us know down in the comments down below, but that's going to take us into our second topic of the day, which is NHL documentary OUSTS Elias Pettersson. Now, I know you guys are tired of us talking about Elias Pettersson. However, on Wednesday night, the National Hockey League aired part 1 of a documentary called Four Nations Face Off Unveiled, which took behind-the-scenes look at the round-robin portion of the tournament. During one part of the documentary, which aired on Sportsnet in Canada, cameras caught Elias Pettersson icing his knee prior to one of Sweden's round-robin games, which could signal that the 26-year-old may still be dealing with an injury. And the snapshots in question are right here where he is icing his knee. It seems like could be nothing, could be something. Now we're going to dive into that because there's a lot of people online saying it's nothing. Everyone ices their knee. It's pretty routine for athletes to do that. Even me, having played sports in my life as well, there's been many times where, hey, it's a little sore. You want to ease that pain. There's also other people saying that, hey, there's that knee tendonitis that he's been dealing with, and that's something that you can't shake very easily. I know with supreme athletes, they are almost superhuman where they can shake injuries at a lot faster rate than us normal civilians can do. However, they are still human. They're not superhuman. They can recover at a superhuman rate, but at the end of the day, they can still get hurt like anybody else. And with tendonitis, it is a very long recovery process where you might not fully recover from that until a year later, even longer, to get back to 100% or 110% even, because that's what these players need to be at. 100% isn't good enough anymore in the NHL or in professional sports. You need to be at 110%, and we saw that with Thatcher Demko. They rushed him back before he was at 100%. Look where that got him. Look at all the drama that we're dealing with now. So with Elias Pettersson, even if this is something minor, where it's a minor tendonitis thing, it could still be bugging him. Now, before you guys race to the comments, everyone's going to say, okay, that's a question of heart. Your heart is far from your knee. I understand that. However, the knee is still a very vital part of the body, especially when in hockey. So, yes, everyone's going to touch on that and talk about how Charlie McAvoy played through injury. So many other guys played through injury. Connor McDavid played through the injuries he did in the playoffs last season, and so many other guys. However, when you're dealing with the knee, I know I could be giving Pettersson a pass here, and everyone's going to say I'm going soft on him in the comments or things like that. However, with this, and even with Quinn Hughes, the Canucks were very skeptical about the Quinn Hughes thing with him going to play for Team USA even, and him as well, not wanting to push himself so that he's not 110% where it risks him of a greater injury, because the Canucks team is more important. However, with Pettersson in this situation, if he's playing through an injury at this tournament, it's definitely a thing where you want to get a break from the Vancouver noise and go play with your countrymen, have fun and relax. But that wasn't the tournament that he had. He didn't have a very good tournament. He had a very terrible tournament for all intents and purposes, especially that final game against the United States where he logged only 10 minutes ice time, which could be indicative of the injury. Could be that. Could be the flu that went through there as well. But he did register zeros on every single part of the score sheet. So that's something that's very alarming for Canucks fans, very alarming for the NHL, but also could be indicative of something deeper at play here. Again, we have no confirmation other than what his agent was saying a few weeks ago, saying, never trying to find excuses. I know PD had a tough summer. He couldn't train at the level he wanted to train. He had an injury that held him back for quite a while, and he had an okay camp. Now, coming into camp, maybe he was a bit injured. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, that was back at camp. This is now. It's not the same thing as it was then. No one is necessarily confirming or denying that. We know the Canucks have been downplaying the fact that he could be injured. We know that they've said multiple times, yeah, Petey's fine. And then there's times where they'll say that and then they'll turn around and say, oh, he's not fine. They're flip-flopping. So no matter what, in this case, everyone's going to jump to the thing on their own opinion saying, this is crazy. This is not what it seems to be. Everyone's blowing this out of proportion. And there's going to be people saying that, yes, this is the injury still lingering, but it's still no excuse. However, regardless of what's at play here, regardless of what insider is going to come out and say what they want to say on this, whether it's Elliot Friedman, Rick Dhaliwal, Jeff Patterson, Ian McIntyre, doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, the Canucks, when it comes to injuries, as we've seen with precedent in the past, unless it's a very blatant one, even with Thatcher Demko, we knew he was clearly injured and they were still being hush-hush about what it was. I know a lot of that was the diagnosis and trying to make sure that they had the right diagnosis because it was such a rare injury. But even with JT Miller and that whole situation, yeah, they were being coy about it because they don't want to show their cards. But that just goes to show the type of management that we have right now, where when it comes to the media, there's times where they're openly honest and way too honest, and there's times where they're not honest whatsoever and downplay or even sometimes straight up lie to us when there is an injury at play here. And there's been times where even insiders have come out with conflicting reports to them, and vice versa, where the Canucks are saying one thing, insiders saying another thing on either side of the fence, good or bad. So yes, this is a situation where we could be blowing this out of proportion. The media could be blowing this out of proportion. Fans could be blowing this out of proportion. This could be nothing. This could be something major. This could be something in the middle of the ground. However, when it comes to injuries, the Vancouver Canucks seem to be very hush-hush about things and don't seem to say anything unless they're vehemently pressed on it. And even then, sometimes they're downplaying in the media. So again, not saying this is something that is going to be downplayed, not saying this is something that's going to be major, but this is still something to look at and something to monitor, and we're going to be bringing you guys all the updates that we can on that. I know there's been a lot of PD news lately, but this is just the nature of the thing. The Canucks aren't playing right now. Who's playing right now that's playing in hockey? You got the Four Nations tournament going on. The only Canucks that we have there, we got Pettersson, we got, I almost said JT Miller, but he's not here anymore. Rick Tocchet is also there, but the only one that we're actually going to be able to get injury updates on, playing updates on, is Elias Pettersson and Kevin Lankinen, but his tournament is over there. He's coming back to Vancouver, and hopefully will have an extension soon. But what do you guys think on all this? I know it's a lot of drama between the Kevin Lankinen contract stuff, the Pettersson, is there an injury, is there not, is he in a slump, is he not, what's going on there? I know there's a lot to process, and I know you guys have a lot of thoughts on it, so let us know down in the comments below. But that's going to do it for this episode of Canucks Digest. I've been your host, Griffin. Take care.